Hey guys, good morning. I'm back and welcome back to Gent Speak. We help men express freedom and power over money, relationships, and culture. And today I wanted to just briefly take a moment and share something that I think is important for, all people in a society that similar to what we live in. Some people may call it a police state. I do feel like we are a little bit over policed at times, but I'd also say that considering the situation that we are in, it's important to kind of understand the culture and understand the situation so that you can avoid unwanted circumstances. And what I mean by what I'm saying right now is, there's so many, men who are incarcerated, especially black men, highly disproportionately. And a lot of it comes down to the way that our neighborhoods are policed. A lot of it comes down to the way that we deal with, confrontations with authority. But there are some things that we have done or created patterns individually and as a group collectively that make it easier for people to take advantage of our freedom. Some of the habits that we have make it easy for us to become victim to the system. And it's pretty simple. First thing I want to say is, you want to make sure that you are never um, committing two crimes at once. Um, I say this with reservation because I understand it sounds like I may be promoting criminal activity. Not promoting criminal activity, but there are several activities that people um, um, take part in that are criminalized, and there's others that are not. And there also are certain groups or neighborhoods that are policed at a higher rate. So anyone who makes some of the same mistakes that someone else may make in a different community may not have to they may not have to deal with it because they are immune, essentially because they live in a community that's not as heavily trafficked by police officers. Um, but whether it sounds like I'm promoting crime or not, I'll say that anytime that you are committing more than one crime at once, you are, potentially subject to the actions or authority of, somebody like a police officer. What I mean in a practical sense is, let's say you have a tail light out, and that is a crime. It's not a serious crime. It's not something that I think you should go to jail for. But you just may get pulled over because you have a tail light out. You can accept the fact that this police officer is here to make sure that you're driving safely and that other people who are driving around you can drive safely at night. But if you don't want to accept that, you can also have the belief or opinion that it was motivated by something else. May it be racism or because you were a guy or they just have a quota and they want to pull people over. But on paper, that police officer has to have something to tell his boss, to tell his authorities why he arrested you. And what I mean by arresting, even if you're not in handcuffs, if you're being hindered from your progress throughout your day, then you can definitely say with accuracy that you were arrested. That is the act of being arrested. So, let's say you had your tail light out, and when the police officer comes to the car door, he smells a whiff of the aroma of something that you've been smoking in the car, or that someone else in your car has been smoking. Now that person has probable cause to search you and to detain you from your vehicle because the first reason why he was even talking to you was because you had a tail light out. And the second reason why he was dealing with you and arresting you is because of the crime that he discovered. Obviously, you go into jail over something like marijuana, depending on the state, can be a serious offense. But essentially what you have done is you have given them the right to police you, and whether they were correct or not, it started with the fact that you had already committed one crime that may put you in a tough situation. If you're on parole and you are on probation and you have to kind of do, things that you want to do, then you have to make sure that you're not in a situation where you could be pulled over or dealt with, because anything that you do that is a crime, uh, if you're on probation, is going to get you in more trouble. Everything is amplified for those situations. So you have to be a lot more on top of your activities, your friends' activities, and you have to understand profiling. It's not right, it's not fair, but it's a situation that our culture deals with. Essentially, because there are more people than there are police officers. There's more people than there are authorities. And one of the main tactics to deal with a situation like that is to kind of use people control. Profiling is a form of people control. So if you expect to, dress the way that you want to dress and look the way that you want to look in the neighborhood that you want to be in, just understand that that may match the profile of what a young police officer or old police officer is being told are the new issue, the new problem, the new menace. And it doesn't help that statistically, if you go out to police that community and you talk to people who are representative of that style, because everything that you wear is just a style, whether you have dreads or you bald head, you got a beard, or you wear white tees or whatever you wear. If a police officer approaches you because he feels like you fit the description, I'd have to say that it's a shame that we live in a culture where your profile may be your crime, but I can guarantee you that if you are not committing any crime that would have made a police officer apprehend you, whether you looked a certain part or not, when you go to court, you can get off because that police officer did not have probable cause. A profile, description, it's not enough to create probable cause. So if you ever are stopped, pulled over, or apprehended, and you have not given that officer any reason to do so, then have a respectful conversation. I could never be a police officer. I mean, it's just obvious. But if I worked anywhere dealing with people, when the people that I'm serving become hard to deal with, it makes it tough for me to do my job. I'm not giving any police officer an out for any type of confrontation, but you know, police officers are human, and you never want to put a person in a situation where they have to represent their ego and not their job. Once a person has to represent their ego, they're liable to do anything that violates you because they're not thinking clearly. So you don't want to put a police officer who has maybe a superiority complex in a position of power over you and give them the right to apprehend you. You don't want to give your right to them. So I'm not saying that, committing one crime at a time, or making sure that you're not committing two crimes at once is a magic bullet. I'm not saying it's going to keep you from having confrontations with other authorities, but I can say that, by and large, when you're committing more than one crime at the same time, you're putting yourself in a position where, people can take advantage of you, and you don't want to, continue that trend. And I don't want to say that profiling is something that you can defend. If you're black and you're a male, then you're going to be profiled. I mean, even if you look nice and you dress nice, you may have a confrontation one day. So you always want to maintain that sense of responsibility to yourself and responsibility to being serviced. I mean, at first, a police officer is supposed to be there to serve you. So you should make sure that they serve you. I mean, ask the police officer for his badge number, his name. Make sure that that person is respecting you as a man. Don't just walk into a situation with another man and have that person who feels like they're more powerful than you really feel like they could take advantage of you, and you would not be the wiser. You wouldn't be able to do anything. So there's just a few words of advice I wanted to share, because I do think that we have too many run-ins with the law and too many situations where we go to jail over something that started out as a simple, offense. Maybe on the books, but I mean, common sense will tell you that people in our country in prison the way that they are, especially disproportionate amongst racial lines, it's uncalled for. It's a outcome that should not have been tolerated from the beginning. And we have to do what we can to make sure that we're not a part of that. Carry yourself as a gentleman and take the profile away from the police officer. Give yourself the power over that, and make sure that you're not doing anything that would give them the right to violate your rights or your freedom of transportation. So, like I said, just a few words wanted to share. Thanks for tuning in to Gent Speak, and hope to see you next time. Have a good day.